I am so tired of NBA refs, and I've got a lot to say about it tonight. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another edition of Pistons Daily, a podcast where we bring you daily content about your Detroit Pistons. I'm your host, Tony Nash, and we are on the road to 2,500 subscribers. So if you haven't already, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell. Make sure you share this channel with all of your Pistons fans. We talk about some fun stuff on this show, and we love our Detroit Pistons, and we have a lot to talk about tonight. I'm actually recording, which will be last night, right after the game. What a game against Boston. That one had me on the edge of my seat, and I thought Derrick White was going to do it to us again. We're going to talk all about him and about this game, but that makes it 4 in a row. You know, the Pistons won again, right? And so it's good to be back on the winning side. A good game. I mean, a lot of things didn't go well for us, but we got it done when it mattered most, and it is a good win. Boston has been playing some ball lately. They have played beat some really good teams, and for us to go into Boston, get that win, hostile crowd, hostile environment, and just really poor officiating on both sides. I wouldn't say it was necessarily one-sided tonight. There were a few moments where it was, but just really poor officiating, physical game, several technicals handed out, lots of jawing back and forth between the players and the refs, lots of physicality, which I love if you let it go or if you let it go consistently, but they did not. But before we get into my little rant about the officials, let's look at tonight's game. We had 11 guys see the floor, but we really played a 10-man rotation. Dennis Jenkins only saw the court for 3 minutes, so we really stuck with that 10-man rotation. And once again, we saw a lot of zone. I don't know if you noticed, but every single time that Duncan Robinson went out of the game, they immediately switched to zone. So that shows you the value of a guy like Duncan Robinson, who can not only knock down the outside shots, but really keeps in movement and makes it harder for the zone to function. But every time he went out, man, they went into the zone, and we were struggling with it, especially in the first half, chucking up a lot of threes. And we finally started to find ways to penetrate the zone and beat the zone. We hit some big shots when it mattered. And so let's really talk about how the game went. Cade with another fantastic performance, 32 points and 10 assists, a double-double for Cade, 9 points in the fourth quarter. Mr. Clutch, Mr. Smooth Operator, got it done when we needed to. Had a really good game tonight. Only 3 turnovers, which is huge for Cade and huge for our team. Team shot 46% from the field, 36% from 3, so 13 for 36. Not our best game, but definitely not our worst game. But a real kicker here tonight was the free throw shooting. We only shot 68% from the free throw line. And so thanks to Asar Thompson, honestly, Asar missed 4 or 5, I believe, of those. Had a rough night shooting. Usually you can count on Asar to make almost exactly 1 out of 2. I think his season average is 52%. So typically he's Mr. 1 for 2, but I think he was 0 for 4 tonight. Let me just double check that. Free throw, no, he was 1 for 7. So rough night shooting free throws for Asar Thompson, but a great defensive game from him. And still a huge fan of Asar. But man, you would think with somebody that has unlimited access to the gym, to coaches, that this guy would learn how to be an elite free throw shooter. As much as he attacks the rim and as much as he gets to the paint and knows that he's going to be at the line, you would think that someone with his athletic ability could become an elite free throw shooter. I'm not really sure why he can't, but that's something that's got to be fixed. We definitely need him shooting better from the free throw line. Let's see. We had 4 guys in double digits tonight, but a lot of scoring. And we're going to talk about the bench scoring here at the end. We had Tobias with 13 and 7. Duncan Robinson with 7. Just 1 for 3 on 3. They really guarded him closely, but again, he creates a lot of space and a lot of attention to open up other opportunities. When you have a guy like that that spaces the floor, it makes it much easier to attack the seams and to get buckets on the inside, and which we started to do there in the second half. Let's see. Jalen Duren didn't play. I guess he played 29 minutes. It seemed like he sat a lot tonight. They were letting Beef Stew play a lot. Him and Jalen Brown were going back and forth. That was entertaining to watch, and he was really, really doing a good job around the rim. But Jalen Duren with 29 points, only 6 points, 6 shots, just 3 rebounds. So not a big night for Jalen. But Sar Thompson had 7. Isaiah Stewart had 7 and 7. Ron Holland had 9 points, had a couple big buckets. Uh, Javonte Green, let me tell you, Javonte, that dunk that Javonte had, that got all of us up out of our chairs tonight. What a dunk that was. And Javonte came in and got some really big steals for us. And then, of course, that dunk, even though he got a technical, it was almost worth it just because he got us hyped up. And that kind of was like, I wouldn't say the momentum changer, but that was the moment where I felt like, okay, I think we got control of this. Although Derrick White, we're going to talk about him, kind of came back and almost did to us what he did in the first game. I got to hand it to, and I do want to say, like, putting Javonte on Derrick White at the end was a good call by the coach. Had a couple of good defensive stops there. But I got to hand it to our guy, Caris LeVert. You know, I've been hard on Caris on this podcast. Been calling him Careless LeVert since his days at Michigan. But he had a great game tonight. And he had some really big, timely shots for us. And Caris is growing on me, okay? I haven't jumped fully on the Caris train yet. Obviously, game to game, my emotions on him or my opinion on him can go up and down. And I want Caris to succeed. It's only to our benefit that he does. But if he can play like he did tonight, he only had 19 minutes. He actually got less minutes than Jaden Ivey, which I prefer to see as we're trying to work Jaden Ivey back into the rotation. But Caris had some big moments, some big shots, was good with the ball. He only had 1 turnover, so shot 50% from the field, hit a couple big threes for us. So good game tonight for Caris LeVert. Jaden Ivey, 21 minutes. This is the most minutes he's played since he's been back. And I liked seeing him get extended minutes. Now, listen, Jaden Ivey looked rough at times. He looks rough with the ball. He's definitely not as confident at attacking the rim as he was in the past. But you saw the more time he got on the court, the more comfortable he became. He took some ill-advised threes, didn't shoot great from three-point land tonight, but had some really nice finishes at the rim, had some nice buckets. Played great defense. I mean, his defense is really, really getting better every game. Had some great defensive stops, but the ball just still seems a little loose in his hand. Like when he's dribbling up the court or when he's getting a steal, he's got to really learn to secure the ball. But love his energy. And again, I think it's going to take a little bit of time, but we're getting more and more minutes to start to see what Jaden Ivey can do. Again, Dennis Jenkins just played 3 minutes, just came in for a few minutes to give Cade a little breather. So overall, really big win. Whenever you can go into Boston and win there, again, the Celtics hate the Pistons. And I think the Pistons hate the Celtics. This goes all the way back to the Bad Boys days. And I shared yesterday on the podcast about my story at Boston Garden, where me and my buddies had to get escorted out because it was a hostile environment. So I know what it's like there. They do not like to lose to Detroit. And so it's great to get a win there. And again, like I said, Boston is playing really good basketball right now. Recently handing it to New York and beating the Lakers and beating the Raptors. And so for us to get that win is really good. And that just widens our lead there in the East. And so just building and building to that January 5th game that we got against New York. I can't wait. I'm going to be at that game. And I hope to see some of you there as well. So big win for the Pistons, giving us 4 in a row. We got, let's see, who do we got left this week? We got Dallas and Charlotte this week. So should get 2 more wins this week. Those are the games we should win. Going to have some West Coast teams. So again, always good to win against the West Coast teams. Dallas and Charlotte not having the greatest seasons. And so we should be able to get those wins tonight, this week, I'm sorry. So let's make it 6 in a row by the end of the week. But I want to talk about the NBA officials. I've talked a lot about on this podcast. I was so frustrated with the officiating tonight. I mean, were you not frustrated? JB was frustrated. Cade started arguing almost from the beginning because it was that bad. Cade got a technical early on, and usually Cade is very cool, calm, and collected, but he had had enough. Isaiah Stewart got a technical. And just the officiating was so inconsistent and so bad. And I get so tired as a fan. I spend so much money on the Detroit Pistons, whether it's going to games, whether it's buying League Pass, buying FanDuel, buying merch, apparel. Like, I spend a lot of money on watching the Pistons, and as a fan, you just want a good fan experience. Now, those of you who have been watching the podcast know I've been a coach for 10 years. I've had my fair share of run-ins with the officials, and I kind of learned, and I shared this with you guys before, I learned kind of how to, get along with high school officials. Doesn't always work. But man, I tell you, for professional officials that make a lot of money, by the way, the reffing is just bad. And I'm saying this after a win. And it's not just against the Pistons, but the reffing in the NBA is just bad. And something has to be done about this. And I'm really, really tired of watching poorly officiated games. You have, a mix of refs that seem like maybe they know what they're doing with a bunch of younger refs that really don't seem to know. Tonight, it was a very, very physical game, and there was only 36 fouls called. Just a couple of nights ago, maybe a week and a half ago, there was a game, and I can't remember who it was, but we reported there was 87 fouls, and it was not really a physical game. It took almost 3 hours to get through. And then tonight, in Boston Garden, hostile environment, even the announcers were saying it felt like a playoff environment. Just a lot of slapping, jawing, a lot of things going on. And there was times where the refs just let them play, and then there was times where they're calling ticky-tack. And when it's inconsistent like that, it makes it very difficult for players to play within the flow of the game. And it's very frustrating. And, I just get tired of seeing it. I don't know about you. And I know I'm just ranting right now, but I really, really get tired of poor officiating. Now, as I said before, yesterday, the Pistons are actually second in the league in free throw attempts. So I don't know that this is just the refs picking on Detroit. I do feel like Detroit still doesn't get a lot of the whistles that other teams get. But the inconsistency of it and the lack of accountability. And then tonight, Jaylen Brown, he fouls, I think it was Karis LeVert, and causes Karis LeVert's shot to be 6 feet short of the rim. Call a foul. They challenge it. I watched the replay. He clearly comes across his arm. Now, it's after the shot's up, but it comes across his arm, and then his hand rakes his face, and they overturn it. And I'm like, what are we watching here? What are we watching? Are we watching the same replay? I mean, they have the same replay going up in front of me, and I thought, in order to overturn it, it has to be an obvious change to the call. And to me, it was an obvious foul. And the fact that they overturned it, I scratch in my head. I'm wondering, what's the money line on this game? You start going to all kinds of places, and you hate to think that way, but it just seems like it. So the inconsistency really has to change. Letting it go sometimes and then calling it other times is just so frustrating to a player and certainly to a fan. And then I always feel like Detroit is just officiated like the opponent is always the star, right? Like, when you have guys like Anthony Simmons getting calls that Cade doesn't get. You have guys like Derrick White going in and falling over and getting a call that, Cade Cunningham, who's, a top 10 player in the NBA, goes hard to the bucket and just doesn't get the calls. And so you wonder, just like, why? Why are some of these other teams? Maybe, like I said, as a fan, maybe it's in my head, maybe it's in my mind, but it seems like role players sometimes get calls against Detroit, while Cade, Ivy, Duran, they get hit twice, 3 times sometimes when they go in and no call. I think young teams don't get the benefit of the doubt. I think that could play a part in why Detroit doesn't get the calls as much. Again, we're second in the league in free throw attempts, but we're also leading the league in attempts in the paint and points in the paint. So we're not just jacking up threes like a lot of other teams are. So it makes sense that we'd be at the free throw line, but we're missing a lot. Isaiah Thomas said a few weeks ago on that interview with George Blaha that he just thinks Detroit will get, if they can continue to win, they'll get more and more calls, which just bothers me. Like, call the game as it is. It shouldn't matter who the team is or who the player is. Better players should not get more calls or less calls. The calls should be called the same for everyone. There are rules to the game which officials are paid handsomely to enforce, and they should do just that. And when they have a call because it's a star or a non-call because it wasn't, or makeup calls because they missed one, I hate that stuff. Just call the game as it is. Now, I have officiated before. There was a time in my life before I coached that I did a little officiating, and it's not an easy job, and you do miss things, but these are professionals that make a lot of money, and I think they need to do a better job. And obviously, like, bad reffing can change the momentum of the game. Whistles can change the direction of which the way is going. It can foul guys out. It can put guys at the free throw line. It can change a possession. And so, man, there are time after time after time where you see the officials determine the outcome of a game, and nothing ever seems to happen. And, I guess at the end of it all, in any normal job, you and I have jobs, right? I run a business. I've worked plenty of jobs. And if I don't do a good job, my clients will fire me. If I have a job for an employer and I'm not performing well, I have a bad night, a bad day, I get maybe a verbal warning. And then if it happens again, I get written up. And then if it happens again, maybe you get suspended or fined. And eventually you lose your job. And what I want to know is, so many times you'll see they'll do the 2-minute, post game report and show that, yes, we just missed that call. Like last year against the Knicks, when Tim Hardaway got hammered, an obvious call right in front of the official. Game over. No chance to tie. Next day they issue a statement. We got that call wrong. But nothing ever happens. We can't replay the game. What happens to that ref? He's already reffed a few Pistons games this year. Is there a fine? You don't read about these fines. Is there a written reprimand? Is there verbal warnings? Is there suspensions? Like, something needs to be happening. There needs to be some accountability. In any good working environment, there has to be accountability. I feel like I run a very successful branding and marketing agency, and my staff is great and they're creative, but even the best ones are held to a level of accountability. And there's a point system. And when you're performing well, you get bonuses. And when you are not performing well, you get penalized. And there has to be something put in place. And I have some ideas of how we could fix this. Not that anybody would want to hear it from me, but I realize I'm just ranting right now. But I was just super frustrated with the officials tonight. And I think something has to be done. There has to be more transparency, and there has to be consequences. There can't just be well, just trust us, we're going to get it better, or it was good enough. Like, I would like to see some sort of accountability put into place with these NBA officials. So I want to hear from you guys. You guys are great in the comments. I love it. And let's sound off. How do we feel? Am I alone in feeling like the officiating is just bad, and not just bad for Detroit, but it's really bad in the league overall? I watched the San Antonio OKC game the other night, and the officiating was just bad. Like, the refs definitely determined the outcome of that game in some senses by non-calls or bad calls. And that's bad because you got two great teams duking it out and the refs get involved. In my opinion, a well officiated game, the refs just shouldn't be remembered. But so many times you walk away from a game feeling like, man, the refs had too much of a hand in that. And I don't know why it is. I don't know what it is. I don't want to think the worst, but I just think something needs to be put in place to offer more accountability. So I want to hear from you. Let me know in the comments. Let's hear about the refs. What do you feel about the refs? Be honest. Be brutal. If you think I'm dead wrong, tell me I'm dead wrong. If you think I'm just a whiny fan, I want to hear it. But I know that's not the case, because this isn't just about Detroit. This is about NBA officiating as a whole. And I watched a lot of WNBA games this summer as well, and it's just as bad, maybe worse, in the WNBA. And so these professional officials get paid so much. There needs to be some accountability. So sound off, guys. Let's hear what you have to say. NBA, we got to do better. And then listen, let's talk about Derrick White. Man, Derrick White, I don't like that guy. But he gives it to the Pistons, and he almost did it to us again. He had 27 against us last time. I think 20 of them were in the second half, and then 31 tonight. Again, a big majority of those in the second half. Hit some big threes down the stretch and just wants the ball. And for whatever reason, that guy catches fire. He's a smart player, obviously an experienced player, played on Team USA, played on a championship team. Like, I get it, he's good, but man, he seems like prime Kobe in the fourth quarter when he plays against us. And he's a problem for the Pistons. And I love the move again by JB to bring Javante in at the end to kind of isolate him. And it actually worked. I don't think he scored again after Javante. Jaylen Brown obviously had a good game, picking on Duncan Robinson all night, finding the mismatches. Boy, he knows how to get downhill, does he not? But Derrick White, man, what a performance both times. Hate to see it, but man, some of the shots he hit, some of those, double cross through the legs and then step back threes, just daggers, and keeps them in the game, and their momentum changers. And like I said, it got us last time. I'm sitting there watching tonight, like he's going to get us again. And fortunately, we're able to get enough stops down the stretch. But man, let's hear some comments about Derrick White. What do you think about him as a player? He's going to be a problem for the Pistons. And I think we're going to see, obviously, we're going to play the Celtics more this year, but we're going to see them more and more in the play, probably even in the playoffs. And of course, there's a long time rivalry there. And so Derrick White's one of those guys that I think is just going to give us a problem unless we can figure out how to stop him. And then let's round off today's episode talking about what I think the key to the win tonight was the bench. Boston does not have a great bench, and obviously we do. Loving the 10-man rotation. Our bench outscored their bench 47-14, and that was really the difference maker tonight. Their starting lineup really performed well. Let's see, Jalen Brown had 34. Derrick White had 31. Peyton Pritchard only had 12, but man, he came out on fire. Couldn't miss there in the first quarter. But then, 9 from Anthony Simmons and 5 from Gonzalez. So only 14 in from the bench. And I guess, the rest of their starters didn't really perform that well. Obviously, Walsh was in foul trouble all night. But when they get Tatum back, they're going to be tough. And so they're definitely a team to watch, definitely a team that is figuring things out. They're well coached. They play hard. They play defense, and going to be a tough thing. But our bench tonight really came through. Again, I want to say one more time for all those of you who think I'm a Karis LeVert hater, good game tonight. Karis did some great things. Javante Green, man, with some big steals. And that dunk, man, that dunk was absolutely incredible. So overall, great night for Pistons fans. The Pistons won again, 4 in a row. Let's cheer them on. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Let's sound off on these officials. Let us know what you think about the refs in the comments. I want to get some good conversation going about NBA refs and what you guys think about them. And then, what do we think about Derrick White? Maybe a few boos, some thumbs down in the comments. Although, got to respect the game. Had a good game tonight. And kudos to our bench. And, like I said, overall, a great win. A fun win for us to get. A tough win. I like to see us getting those tough wins. So hopefully we come out this week. We don't play down to our opponents, but we play up, get a couple wins. Let's be 6 in a row by the end of the week. And let's keep extending that lead on New York. So thanks again for watching. That's all I got for you guys tonight. Remember, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It would mean so much to me to have you subscribe to this channel. I'm really, really enjoying getting to know you guys, fellow Pistons fans. And I'm on several groups on Facebook, so go over and follow some of those Facebook groups. Follow me at Real Tony Nash at Instagram and TikTok to get more Pistons content over there. And I talk about other Detroit things as well. And let's keep it going. Let's keep winning, and let's keep going. Look forward to hearing from you. And as always, Detroit basketball. Let's go, baby.